I've just bought half of an Audi R8. Please start. It's not as good as I thought it was. But this car is something rare these days. Because it is a gated manual, that means we can actually try and bump start it. Oh, power! It didn't work. The Audi R8 is a car I'd always dreamed of owning, and if you're anything like me, you grew up watching Top Gear and seeing this as the first ever usable daily supercar. But at the time it had a starting price of £80,000, and 10-year-old me never thought I'd be able to get one. But as the prices of these came down, even more so with this particular example, I had to snap at the opportunity. But you can see this car is not perfect. We've got a lot of work to do here. And it is just cut out after not long. Don't think it was the battery. Hopefully it's just because it's run out of fuel. Now some of you may recognise this car because it was actually previously owned by Mark McCann, who did some questionable things with it.
And then we're missing more parts than we thought.
So it's pretty obvious this car has not had an easy life. Mark bought it and very quickly got to stripping it and rallying it, but his dream was always to jump it. Now luckily I've managed to get in there before he did that to it, and I'm here to save it and bring it back to life. And that is why it's currently in this state. But there is one good thing that came out of all of that. Here's fitted new adjustable suspension. I think they're BCs, and that deletes the mag ride system which comes factory on this car, and that is known for causing loads of problems. How are we getting on back here?
It's not quick.
What, the car or the fuel?
Well, the car without the fuel's definitely not quick.
Right, take two. Let's see if we can get this started. And the first thing we've got to do with this car is get it washed, because it's in an absolute state. And we are off. Sounds mint. It is hanging.
What do you mean?
Now normally if we were going to clean a car in this state, we'd like to cover off some of the bits and bobs like the ECUs for example, but they need cleaning. Everything is filthy, so I feel like we're best off just going for it, don't you, Thomas?
Yes.
So I mean, should we start with the wheels?
I don't even know where you start.
Let's just get the jet wash out. This is going to take ages. So with mud embedded in every crack, crevice and hole, we spent the next day cleaning this car as thoroughly as we could. So now the dirt's off it, we can see what is really up with this car, and the damage goes a bit more than skin deep. But we can find out a lot more about what's wrong with this car by reading the codes. Let's see what she's got. So we've got a battery charger on, ignition is on, and then we can plug in our OBD11 device into the OBD2 port. And then we've just got to fire up the OBD11 app and see how many fault codes this car's got. All we've got to do is tap the scan button, and it's going to read over 20 different modules for us. And this car is not in the best of health. 61 fault codes found. It's pretty bad, and there's a lot of electrical malfunctions here, so I'm hoping this is down to the battery voltage being low. And there's a lot more wrong with this car too, but OBD11 can do so much more than just that. Now as this car is pretty high spec, it comes with most features already activated, but there is still some we can do. We can turn on an audible lock and unlock notification, and we can turn off the seatbelt warning. So if you like to put things on your passenger seat and then it sets off the seatbelt warning, you can turn that off as well. It's as easy as that. And the lock notification is now on as well. So if you need to code or diagnose your car, make sure to grab yourself an OBD11 device using the link in the description and discount code SLIX to save yourself some money. Now let's try and start reassembling this destroyed Audi R8. So where do we start with this car? Well, somewhere around here. We have every part that Mark and his team took off the car after rallying it. Unfortunately though, storage has took its toll on some of the parts, so I suppose we need to reverse the process that they did, disassemble it and reassembling it, but do it better than it was before. And I've just realised it's blue. So the panels are the bit that's going to need to go on last. So the bonnet, the bumpers, the side skirts, all of that sort of stuff. The engine over here is not from this car. That's from the X3M project, which we've got going on at the moment. If you haven't seen that, link's in the top right hand corner. So I think we're going to start with the mechanical stuff. These are the anti-roll bar drop links, which go just here. And the reason they've removed those is to give the suspension longer travel and make it better off-road. But we don't want that. We want it to drive better on the road. So we need to find how they're going to go back on. Let's not waste any more time and let's start rebuilding this Audi R8. So we can start by getting the car up on quick jacks outside, but this didn't even go to plan. Well, I was hoping that wouldn't be the case, but because the engine's in the back, when we try to put it on the quick jacks, it's trying to teeter a bit. So we're going to spin the quick jacks round and use them backwards because the engine is in the wrong but the right place. Make sense? I'm sure some of you will have known that, but it's something that some of you may not have. So with the quick jack spun around, it was much more sturdy, and then we can take the wheels off and then start looking at fitting these drop links. Straight away, a couple of things we've noticed is this bolt here is the wrong way around, so that needs to be flipped around so we can put the drop link in here. But also, by them doing that, Nick, this one's directed at you.
And then
Managed to push the headlight level adjuster out, so we need to bend that back on the bracket too, which is an easy fix. So swap bolt round, bend that back, drop link on. Good start. So with a few little tweaks, this corner of suspension should be pretty much ready to rock. All we've got to do, as I said, is swap that bolt round, get it pointing the right way, and then using the original nut off that is what holds the drop link on, and then we can pull the anti-roll bar down and then drop that into place too. And of course, you can't forget to ugga-dugger it to spec. And after we took the suspension level sensor off, it was easy enough to tweak back into its home, and then we could do the other side. And whilst Tom tackled that, I thought this would be a great opportunity because we'd spotted there was loads more mud caked into the back of the suspension components, so that needed cleaning out as well, which is exactly what I did. Now this car is going to take forever to get actually clean because the mud gets everywhere, so it's going to be a long task getting this back to how it should be. Both the drop links are now back on, but we've got a problem on this side because like the suspension level sensor is damaged and there is no evidence of what colour goes to where on the plug because they've been ripped out right at the end. So if you have got an R8 and you can let us know which plugs go to which locations or a wiring diagram, that would be super helpful. But this side's looking much cleaner. I still need to do the other side, but in a second we're going to start tackling some of the front end and see what we can do here. Now the dirt goes much further than just on the car. Every single trim and piece which they've removed is covered, so we thought we'd make a start on that. So now I want to try and start assembling the front of the R8. Now the problem here is we didn't take this car apart, so we have no idea how it goes back together. I have never worked on an R8 before, and I'm a little bit clueless really, but we can use logic to help us through this, I guess. What little amount of that I have. So I think what we're going to start with is the centre tub, the kind of boot section. So we have got that in the garage, but boy is it disgusting. It's got cobwebs, mud, maybe a little bit of mould going on in there. It's not pretty at all, and I don't want to be putting nasty parts back on that car. I want this car to be mint when it's done. So I can now pull from my detailing arsenal. As we all know, I used to run a detailing business and very recently sold that, and with that I still have a lot of stuff left over, so these drill brushes come in really handy in order to clean things like this because they take the effort out of scrubbing and really help get it very clean very quickly. So after we've gone over the carpet sections, we can also clean up the exterior part of it because this was all caked in mud as well, and after a good 20 minutes spent on it, it was then ready to go in the car, which was pretty self-explanatory. There's one electrical connector for a light, and also then it just drops onto some locating pins and has a couple of bolts at the front. Then we can get on the windscreen scuttle trim, which does just clip under the windscreen, and then it has these kind of half-turn locator bolt things. I think that's the technical name anyway. Next up is the side panels which go around here. This kind of works as part of the arch liner, so is a little bit different to some cars, but again, this just clips into place and then uses those same locating bolts. And then the final piece is this kind of boot latch cover trim, and it's taking shape pretty quickly. Okay, so all the top trims are on. We're not 100% sure we're doing this in the right order, but we've got to try it to find out. It's the easiest way to learn. But these all look a little bit faded and nasty, so I'm going to try and restore them with some of this. I don't know about you guys, but I just hate seeing bits of cars which just look tatty, and if they can easily be tidied up with a product like this, it's definitely worth spending the 2 or 3 minutes doing. But this car is covered with trims like this which are faded and has loads of bits which look a little bit tatty, so there is going to be a lot of restoration stuff to do on this. But already does that not look 10 times better than it did before? Now we could just chuck this car back together and get it straight back on the road pretty quickly really, considering we've got most of the parts that we need, but this car car isn't perfect, and I want to make it the best it can possibly be, and there is a few things that need doing in order to do that. Because there is a bunch of parts like this which are just looking really, really rough. So I want to try and sort that out by giving this car that extra little bit of attention to detail and really tidying up all these bits which have got a little bit rough over the years. So we're going to try and treat some of the rusty metal bits. So instead of just chucking the car back together and getting it in one piece, we're going to make sure that this car is top tier. So let's spend a bit of time treating these worn out areas. So we take a wire brush to the corroded brackets and anywhere else which is showing signs of rust. Then we can treat these with a brush on rust primer. But I know the ideal situation here would be to send these parts off for blasting and powder coating, but this is a process which takes really long, and I want to try and do this as you guys could do it at home in your spare time. Now the product we're using is this POR 15 rust preventative, which you paint directly onto a surface after cleaning it and etching it. It's something that Tom has used before and he recommended it highly, and I take his word above anyone's. But I think already it was definitely worth the time spending doing that, but there's going to be a lot more things to do than just painting some rusty brackets. So if you guys have any tips on how I can tidy this up, leave it in the comments. Right, so it's now the next day and we've cleared out the garage of all of the parts for the Audi, and every single one of them was absolutely hanging, so we've given them a good thorough clean down. We thought you guys had seen enough cleaning, so we've done that off camera, and by doing that we've noticed that pretty much every single part needs a little bit of paint to get them looking the best they can. Example 1, example 2, example 3, 4 and 5. You get the drift, and that's got me thinking, what are we actually going to do with this car? How's it going to be when it's finished? What does the finished product look like? Well, I've got an idea, and it's slightly different to what we normally do here. Because let's face it, an Audi R8 is a budget supercar. Whether it classes as a supercar anymore is up for debate, but it is sort of the go-to car that people get when they want to modify a supercar. So it's been done a million times over. So am I going to be able to do something that's not been done before and do it better? The answer is probably not, because it's all been done. They've been put on air ride, they've been supercharged, they've been turbocharged, they've been wrapped, they've been, you name it, it's been done. So how about this? Let's turn this into the prime version of what it should have been. Let's try and get it back to factory specification and get it as clean as possible using methods that we can do mainly at home. Let's try and build a really clean example of what is certain to be a future classic. Because this is the first version of the R8 that was ever made and it's a manual, surely that means that in years to come this is going to be a really desirable car. So I want to see this car stand the test of time, and I want to see it looking good for years and years. And because this car is HPI clear, it is non-categorized, it's going to be worth the full value. So I want to tidy up all the little bits that are a little bit rough to turn it into that really nice clean original car. That's my idea anyway. Let me know what you think to that down in the comment section below, because up until this point mainly what we've been doing is modifying these cars. So maybe that'll be a breath of fresh air to all of us. But for now we've got plenty of stuff to get on with. We can start, well, bolting it all loosely up to make sure everything's there, to make sure we know how it goes together, so then when it's painted it's an easy task reassembling it. It's not just guesswork, risking damaging those panels too. So the next thing to go on is that massive bonnet. Now this was actually surprisingly light, which is going to be because it's made out of aluminium rather than steel. So with a gas strut on each side and the 2 bolts on each hinge, that was on the car. Now it's time for the bumper. So we can offer this up by just clipping it into place underneath the headlights, and already the front end's looking pretty good, but definitely not 100% perfect. There's more to do. Well Tom, I'll let you do the honours. Do you want to bring the bonnet down so we can have a look? That ain't looking too shabby, is it? We need to sort out the panel gaps a bit, don't we? But yeah, it looks pretty good. That's better, yeah. Sorted. Yeah, nice. You can see here what I'm on about with the damage that's been caused. That one's, but yeah, there. The bumper is missing a parking sensor. Got some scratch. There's a bit of a panel gap there, mate.
Someone's brute forced that. There's a little bracket.
Okay, so that's something we need to fix. It's just got a lot of little bits which need sorting out in it to make it that nice clean car. Yes. Well, I don't think that's a bad start on the Audi R8 project, but this is all going to have to come straight back off. We just want to do that first test fit to see that everything's there, everything fits, and that it's going to be effortless to put back together after it's painted to make sure we don't damage it. But anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I hope you're excited about the Audi R8 project, and if you are, don't forget to like this video, don't forget to hit subscribe if you're not already, and I'll catch you next time.